Hey YouTube! In this lesson we are going to get into dubstep, and we're going to try to make a sound like this. And I know a lot of you are not going to be into dubstep, but stick with me because this is going to be highly instructive in getting into some of the more interesting things that the iMS-20 can do. Let's start off with a initial patch. And while I'm thinking about it, let me change the BPM up to 140. And kill these drums. One of the keys to a dubstep patch is having the low-pass filter oscillated by the modulation generator or LFO. And in order for that to sound interesting, we need to have a really harmonically rich patch. So I'm going to load up a patch that I've used previously in an acid track, and it sounds something like this, which I call my itchy square bass because it is using two squares and they are both tuned down to the lowest they can. See, I've got the VCO2 tuning way down here, and the itchiness comes in the form of the effect. I'm using a valve force here, and that's cranked way up. So without it, see, it's just kind of a dull sort of sound, but with it, we got all kinds of itchy stuff going on. And I'm going to load this up into the drums as well, into the 6th drum part. And I'm going to add a sequence now for this that's just a D sharp being played over and over again. And you see when I let go, it put that from legato down to 50%. But I actually want it to re-trigger over on this one. So as you hear, if it's all on legato, it's going to play through its cycle on the envelope, and then it's just going to get too quiet to hear. But I want it to re-trigger so we hear it again. And in fact, it's still getting a little too quiet when it gets down to around here. So I got to go back and check our envelope and boost this sustain level a bit. Alright, and that's going to be our sub bass. It's going to be the bass that's not doing anything weird, and it's just going to kind of glue the whole track together. Let's go back into our synth and do the same thing here, where I'm going to add in a D sharp across the whole bar. And changing my legato now. And I'm going to make some slight adjustments to this patch so that it's going to sound just a little bit different from our other one here. And one of the key things I'm going to do is change this tuning to be just a little bit less than 12, so it's got just a little bit of weirdness going on right there. And bring that up to 8. So now these are on different octaves here, and makes that separate from the one we've got on our drum 6. Alright, now it's time to get into the fun stuff. Over on the parameters page of the sequencer, we can assign all of these various things to be controlled by these knobs here. You'll notice that all of the knobs on the front panel here are represented in this menu. So in this case, I want to be playing around with the modulation generator frequency on parameter 1. And let me play with that so you can see what that does. This is our modulation generator's frequency. It's right now set to 1/4 notes, and it's tempo locked. And if I play around with one of these knobs, see how it's changing now to 1/16. So we can play around with all of our knobs like this, and I'm going to do a really simple little thing here with the first 8 notes down to 0, and then the next 8 notes going up to 16. of these is on 12. Let's try 16s and 12s. You're not hearing anything right now because I don't have the frequency being controlled by anything. So let me switch this. I didn't like the way those 12s are sounding. All the 16. So you hear how the harmonics are an important factor in this, and I can change them by increasing the high-pass filter's cutoff here. Basically just find a tone that you like. I happen to be enjoying this kind of a suggestive tone of a electric guitar. And the way that the low-pass filter is working is it's going back and forth across our low-pass filter cutoff, right? So where our envelopes were just going up and then coming back down to whatever we had it set at, this is actually going back and forth along whatever we've got it set at. So if this is at 5 and this is at 5, it's doing like a 50% of this or something like that. So that helps you fine-tune exactly what kind of tones you're getting. So I'm getting that itchy sound, but it's also getting cut off. And that right there is as simple as it gets. A lot of people like to use either additive or wavetable synthesis for dubstep, but you can totally get away with it using this subtractive synthesis that we've got here. And if you want to get fancy with it, you can assign another thing over here with the other parameters, such as the scale of VCO2. And if you'd like, you can assign the XY pad to be controlling either of those. It's probably not going to sound very good, but here's an example of that. Alright, that definitely didn't sound good, but you get the idea, right? We can control all of these various different things inside of iMS-20 using our parameters, and when we do that, we can assign that to our chaos pads and just play around with all of these different things in an automation sort of way. So when you record stuff, you record all of these various knob movements, and that obviously brings a lot of life to any sound when you've got lots of different stuff moving around.